Developmental Disabilities. My co-host over here is Elizabeth Reed. I will introduce her in a moment. Thank you for joining us on Wednesday afternoon. Before we get started, a few housekeeping moments on any digital call. You should all be muted, but just make sure that you are, double check. In the event that you are a technical genius and you're unmuted, make sure that your phone is off. That goes the same for those of us that are here in the studio. So thank you, and let's get started. October is National Disability Awareness Employment Month. And today's title of our seminar is Understanding Drives Inclusion. And that's how we're going to close out the month of October. Many years ago, I was a retailer, and I began to practice inclusive hiring. It was about 10 years ago when I really look back at it. Over time, I learned how to be a good inclusive hirer. But that process took time, and I had lots of lessons to learn. But some of the best lessons I had to learn came from the partners I had made over the years. One of those is with Arkansas Rehabilitation Services. And they taught me a great deal. And by saying they taught me a great deal, they taught me about disability etiquette. There was a specific class on how to go and learn how to deal with your employees with disabilities. I also had participated in summer workforce programs put on by Arkansas Workforce Services and had a longstanding relationship of hiring with Arkansas Rehabilitation Services. So again, I was well prepared. I had also made an intentional commitment to hiring people with disabilities. Over the years, I had found that hiring people with disabilities wasn't an act of charity. It wasn't a feel-good HR stunt. It was smart staffing. And right now in this market, smart staffing strategies are something that we all need. I also had been through some training through what's called a Disability In. Some of you might know them from their previous iteration as the USBLN. So over the years, I was extremely well trained. I had made lots of partners, and I was very comfortable being an inclusive hirer. Some of you out there are getting ready to take that step. Some of you out there are already doing it and doing it well. If you're in that first category where you're ready to take that first step, you might be asking a couple questions. Number one, is this really right for my business? And number two, how do I execute this right the very first time? So to answer some of those questions, we're going to be asking a series of groups of employees and employers some basic questions around what their experience was like. To help facilitate that, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Elizabeth Reed. Elizabeth's experience is extensive, and I wanted to make sure that I have it all down for you. Elizabeth is a corporate diversity inclusion manager for Arkansas Workforce Services and its rehabilitation division. She brings extensive experience in developing strong business relationships at a high level. Working with diverse populations over the last decade has allowed Elizabeth to develop a comprehensive understanding of how employment can change lives and the exceptional results business can derive from that partnership. She brings diverse knowledge of hiring practices, accommodation needs, business best practices, and also importantly, she brings a vast knowledge of the working of Arkansas Rehabilitation Services itself. She also is well-versed in what we know as WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. That knowledge combined with a master's degree in business administration makes Elizabeth uniquely versed for her role, and it makes her uniquely versed to be able to go in at a high level and help institute diversity and inclusion best practices. So I'm going to turn this over to Elizabeth. Elizabeth will at times be in the background, and Elizabeth will be at times speaking off camera. I'm going to step off and give Elizabeth some time.
If you can pause for just a moment, I'm having some difficulty getting the ASL interpreters permissions.
Okay.
So let's see.
As with any Zoom call, there are from time to time technical difficulties. We are, of course, working with an ASL interpreter. We're going to try to take a few moments to make sure that they are fully able to get online and offer their services. So just bear with us just a moment. Well, in the meantime, The most important part for the translators to talk about is actually our groups of employers and employees. I would like Elizabeth to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the business case and the positives.
Excuse me, apologize for the interruption. The ASL interpreters need video and are unable to provide access in American Sign Language without it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're just going to go ahead and start so that we don't keep you any longer than we have to. Arkansans with disabilities are employed at a rate of 32.8% compared to those without a disability at 76.9%. Research shows that employees with disability have an average retention rate of 85%. In this unprecedented job market, finding employees that want to work is hard. Getting them to stay is even harder. Employee turnover on average costs employers 33% of the salary of the person they lost. That 33% isn't just payroll. That's an average cost. That's in taking into everything that they've lost. That also doesn't include the time and effort that it takes to be able to bring those people, to be able to hire those people again. And if you've lost someone who has some skills, you've lost even more time, money, and retraining. Those with disabilities are willing to stay once they're trained for those jobs. They're strong workers. That's what we see. When an employee leaves, those skills go with them. But you know what? We want people with disabilities to advance. That's the point. We bring them in, we teach them skills, and we give them knowledge to take forward. For each one of us, that's the benefit. The competitive and integrated and individual employment of people with disabilities is a smart business move. By competitive, integrative, and individualized employment, we mean competitive wages. An employee with a disability is making the same wage as an employee without a disability. They are fully part of the team. That's our point. We want to have team members. We want a strong, integrated business workplace. An employee with a disability is working alongside employees without a disability. They are fully part of the team. And individualized employment means an employee with a disability receiving the same paycheck directly from the employer. They're not in an organization through an external work program. They're a true employee, a part of the team. Statistically, employees with disabilities stay longer. They're more loyal and more engaged. What employer wouldn't want that? Every one of us right now. For those of you who have never hired someone with a disability, you may have some concerns, but I'd ask you to consider this. Every time those who make a hiring decision extend a job offer, you are taking a chance. You're taking a chance whether that person has a disability or not. How many of you have hired somebody who looks great on their resume, has a fantastic interview? You offer the job, they come for the first day, and you're not sure that that's the person that you really hired. It's the same. Taking a chance on hiring someone with a disability is no more of a chance than hiring someone without a disability. It's a risk, but the retention rate of those with a disability is much higher than those without. Every job we offer is a chance. During the next hour, we are going to highlight the experiences of 3 groups of employers and employees. Specifically, they are going to discuss what they all came to understand about working with each other by exploring these 3 questions. Number 1, what was the initial process like? Application, interview, onboarding, orientation. Number 2, how was the training and transition into the company and employee culture? And number 3, what did the employer and employee learn through this process? By discussing these 3 questions, those of you watching can gain the benefit of their shared experiences and insights into how to work with someone with a disability. And their collective answers can help employer practices for inclusive hiring successfully from the beginning. At the end of each group, we will have time for Q&A. Feel free to type your questions into the chat. Thanks for joining us. And let's introduce our first speaker.
That's me. Good afternoon. I am part of your first employee and employer group. Before I came to the council, I was a store manager for TJX companies. Specifically, I was with TJ Maxx in North Little Rock and Conway and Marshalls in Little Rock. And over that time, I really learned the value of inclusive hiring. Over time, hiring people with disabilities was just common sense and normal within my building. My peers were also the same way. Prior to leaving Marshalls, I had hired 2 young men that came to work for me. One of them is about to jump on now. His name is JC, and JC, particularly at the beginning, he was working with his work coach. We're going to introduce his work coach in just a moment too, and we'll talk about that as we go through. So JC and Cindy are about to join us now. Here or there?
We're here. Thank you.
Thank you. So Cindy, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Joshua is my oldest, and he's on the autism spectrum. And due to COVID, we weren't able to do a lot of the transition activities that we had hoped we could do during his senior year. So I was feeling very nervous about that, and I saw you on a Zoom call with the Governor's Council and heard that you were involved with disability in Arkansas, something to do with employment for disability. And I was interested in that, so I gave you a call and explained where we were at and what we needed. And you mentioned that Marshalls was hiring and had openings, and the process went by really quickly. Oops, sorry about that.
Feel free to jump in. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. JC, anything you want to say before we get started?
Just happy to be here.
I'm just happy to be here.
You're excited to be here? Well, good. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you agreed to this. Thank you so much. Elizabeth, I'm sure you have some questions for us.
I do. So John, I'd like to start with you. What was the initial process like? The application, the interviews, the onboarding. So what was that like for you as hiring manager?
Well, one of the things we talked about at the beginning was competitive integrative employment. And when people often hear competitive, they think about how that's how you get the job. Now, many of you out there have probably filled out an application, got an interview, and that was it. But the best jobs are easier to get when you have a warm intro and you know somebody. So that's exactly what happened for us. Cindy and I had a phone call. I said, yeah, I'd love to hire your son. I said, I just need you to fill out this application, directed her to the site. And I had a resume and a cover letter put together faster than anything I had ever seen. And it was all right there in the website. It was fantastic. That was also followed by, oh, hey, Joshua's brother also wants a job. and he was 16. So again, had him fill out an application and a resume and a cover letter, and that was it. We were probably from initial conversation to interview in maybe 4 days. Does that sound about right?
Less than that, because I think I called you on Thursday, left a message, and then we spoke on Friday, and you said, if you can get the paperwork in, we're doing interviews tomorrow. So we came in Saturday to interview, and then Tuesday was the orientation, and the following Saturday was the first day of work. So everything happened really fast.
Yeah, that's about right. And that sounds about right for me. Somebody wants a job, and I'm always needing to fill jobs in retail. So yeah, that's probably about right.
So John, not to interrupt you,
No, please.
but so you had the interview on a Saturday, as Cindy mentioned. So she made the statement, we came in. Was Cindy available for the interview?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. So one thing I've learned over the years is that sometimes somebody with a disability needs to have a work coach with them in the interview. So in this instance, Cindy was acting as JC and David's work coach. If you had told me 10 years ago that somebody's mom was coming to the interview, I would have said, well, they're not ready to work and I'm not going to take you seriously. Or I would have immediately thought like, oh no, it's a helicopter mom. This isn't going to work out well at all. Obviously, I was dead wrong. So Cindy came to the interview and she was fully appropriate. She did not take it over in any way, shape, or form. What was nice to see is that she had actually prepared her voice for the interview, something that I don't see all that often, unfortunately, with people interviewing in general. So that went really well. And so after we made the job offer, she also was there in orientation as well. And she conducted herself perfectly. And that's something that I didn't always see with work coaches over the years, but she recognized that, yes, her sons were working for Marshalls, but if she was going to be right there working with them, she was in dress code, she paid attention to her policies and procedures. She was a model work coach. And I only really saw you 2 or 3 shifts afterwards.
So
Yeah,
Cindy, tell us how that was for you.
Well, of course, when I asked to sit in on the interview and asked to come to the orientation, I was a little self-conscious about that. And but John was just very accommodating and supportive, and there wasn't any judgment on his part. I really appreciated that. And actually, my job as a work coach was somewhat short-lived because of his efficiency as an employer and the way he structured the jobs for a buddy for them that was a coworker who had some experience working at the store. And just observing for the first couple of sessions, work sessions, everything was taken care of, really. So I appreciated that.
That's great. So let's move on to the next part. You brought in the fact of training. So John, how was the training and the transition in the company and the employee culture?
One of the things that's always most important when you hire somebody in general is to make sure that once they come on board, you don't hit them with the congratulations, welcome to your job, here's your name tag, this is how you clock in, you'll figure it out, good luck, you seem like a bright kid. No employer should ever do that. So in this instance, like Cindy said, they had a buddy who was right up there with them at all times. That way, if they had a question, she was right there to answer it. And that is typical of the experience for anybody that we brought on board. There was somebody that they could report directly to that could answer questions and could keep it real for them too. You know, as the store manager, I could say, yeah, this is how it is, but the people at the hourly level could echo the same sentiments, and they had somebody right there they could be more comfortable with. And that was how it went. They did just fine. You know, she was responsible for all the things she would have been as a normal buddy or mentor. This is when we go to break. This is how we clock in and out. And she took care of it. And that's how the culture in that store was. And I will, as a shameless plug for my former employer, my peers pretty much did everything the same way. We made sure that somebody had a buddy. We would not have any qualms about hiring somebody with a developmental or intellectual disability in any way, shape, or form. That was just a good business practice for us. So really, I treated them exactly the same as I did anybody else. Just made sure that there was structure and they knew what they were doing.
Well, okay, so Cindy, you've already talked about that and how the transition was. How did you feel about the employee culture within Marshalls?
I felt like they were very accommodating and supportive. And one of the things that stood out to me during the orientation was their use of the term unique. They spoke about how it was important for Marshalls or TJX, the parent company for Marshalls, to find unique products, and they honor unique customers, appreciate their products, and they celebrate and support employees for their unique gifts, strengths, personalities, and sometimes differences and challenges. So I felt very welcome and supported, and I felt like John really went out of his way to accommodate our needs and make it a smooth transition for my boys.
That's good. So JC, how did you feel about the job? How did you feel about the training and transition into the company?
I was a little nervous at first, but I eventually got used to it.
That's great. I can understand being nervous. We all do. So we're going to move on. And our last question is this, and we're going to start with John, or anyone can answer at this point. But what did the employer and the employee learn during this process?
You know, for me, it really was, it was bittersweet because they, JC and his brother were the last two people I hired after 13 years with a great company. And really what Cindy describes and what he would describe is that after 13 years of working at that company and 10 years of inclusive hiring, they just came in just like anyone else. You said to Cindy, it seemed like I went out of my way. I really didn't. I really didn't. I followed the processes that we all had in place. Now, am I more comfortable with hiring people with intellectual and developmental disabilities? Probably, because I've been practicing it for a while, but that's just how the company was. So if you were to say, if I learned one thing from all of it, make sure that you know the processes in your own company. And I really learned just the value of work coaches. It doesn't matter who they are, as long as they're respectful of their place in the process, and you were, and that was perfect. That's why I all but begged Cindy to do this with me, just because I can lift her up as a perfect example of how to be a parent advocate, but also be a parent work coach and transition, your sons in this instance into a successful culture. They do a great job. I wish you would let them work more than one day a week at the end, but that's just me.
So JC, would you like to tell us about what you learned during this process?
I've learned that it's possible to work at a job in the community. I am capable of learning and doing what it takes to be employed at a real job. My differences or challenges don't stop me from achieving this. I've learned that it's important to work hard, be on time, dress appropriately, and always do my best. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. And Cindy, what did you learn from all of this?
I learned that it's possible for kids, for young adults with differences and challenges to work out in the community and to be supported in a real job in the workforce and be able to be a contributing, successful member of the community through employment. So I'm just very grateful for this opportunity.
That's great. And Cindy and JC, what I would like to say to you is I think you're an example to others. And it's wonderful to see this happening. I just have one question, Cindy. So what does JC have planned for the future?
He's working right now on placement testing for college, and we plan on getting that taken care of, and perhaps signing up for some classes in the fall or in the spring, and continuing to work with marshals in the community.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful. And they tell me that we're just about ready for time. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will answer them as we can.
Get the next group up here too. See, do we see anything in the chat?
We have one comment chat, says I'm a work coach, work development specialist job coach, and has had consumers apply marshals if they couldn't get an interview.
Okay, so in that instance, I would tell you this. Hiring managers are busy people. When you're a work coach, what I would really challenge you is building a relationship with that employer prior to filling out applications. They are busy people. They have lots of things going on. That's not just retail, that is anybody. So when that happens, I would challenge you, and this is for work coaches out there, build the relationships in advance. That is one thing that happened with me with Arkansas Workforce Services and Rehabilitation Services, is that I already knew all of the work coaches and the client managers, and they would just call me and say, hey, I have this person that filled out an application, and they would go to the top of my list. So my challenge to work coaches out there would be, don't wait to build a relationship before you submit the application. Start building the relationship with the employers earlier, find out what's not busy for them. I would tell you for most retailers, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are usually some of their more quiet days. Find a way to reach out to them then. And then at that point, you can build that relationship and you're far more likely to move that applicant in there. That would be my biggest challenge, because that's how ARS trained me. And I would challenge you to do the same thing. Good question, thank you. Any other questions in the chat?
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. Do you remember that you can always ask us again? We're just trying to give you a chance to ask those questions now while we have someone who's actually worked as a coach and who's the parent of a child. So anytime you have a question, just type it in chat and we will try to get to it. And if we don't, we'll make sure to get to them at the end of our program. So I appreciate your time, Cindy, JC. It's been a pleasure working with you. And good luck.
Thank you so much.
I think you will make a smashing student come spring.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and get our next group. So if there's anything you want to chat about for a second, I will go get them. Or if you want to go get them, I can.
Did you get that?
Awesome.
And I will get them.
Okay.
Good job.
Awesome. My head's getting cut off. No, you're quite all right. There we go. Elizabeth is going to get our next group. So a few things before we move to our next group. I'm going to let you know a little bit about them. This next group that we're bringing on board all work for Maumelle on the Lake. And the city of Maumelle was kind enough to let the majority of their staff come and talk about the success that they've had. So in this particular instance, city of Maumelle, through Maumelle on the Lake, was able to work with Access, which is part of Project Search. And they have the ability to work with different people with developmental disabilities and bring them in to an employer, sometimes on an internship basis, where they're there learning the environment. That's something that Arkansas Workforce Services had done for many years. And you will also find that there are a great many nonprofits out there that will offer that same sort of program, where you as an employer, if you're not really sure how it's going to go, you have the ability to test it on softer ground. They will bring some potential applicants in and treat it as an internship, where you can come in, you can see how they are, they have a work coach, and they have an understanding of the environment. And then once you're comfortable, you have the ability to go ahead and extend an offer of employment. It's a great program. I would absolutely challenge you to partner with some nonprofits. So I'm going to bring all of them in right now. So I'm going to let them all grab a seat. You guys are right up here, actually. You guys get center stage. Grab a seat. grab a chair, any chair. If I need to get some more, I certainly will. You can sit in my chair. It's comfy. Okay, you, very good. Yeah, just send Elizabeth up. Wonderful. So this is a big group that we've got coming in. So we're going to have Elizabeth introduce everybody shortly as we get everybody settled. I've had the pleasure of meeting all of them a couple times over the last few weeks. When I had heard that Maumelle and the Lake had actually hired several people from Access, I was excited. So I went out and I got to meet them all. I got to see them at work. Probably got to pull them away from work a bit too long. They had to put up with me asking lots of questions. But they agreed to come and be part of it, as did their supervisors, as did the senior HR at the city of Maumelle. So I'm going to, at this point, turn it over to Elizabeth, and we're going to go from there. And again, if you have questions, by all means, put them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, it's great to see such a group here. So why don't we just take a really quick moment and let's introduce ourselves.
I'm Dutch.
Hi, Dutch. It's great to meet you.
I'm Nicole Vogler.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, Nicole?
Yes, ma'am. I'm the Director of Senior Services for the City of Maumelle. And I have the opportunity to work with these fine folks. But we're a center for seniors over 50. And we offer transportation, we offer adult education, meals. It's just a great place to be.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks. Hi, and I'm Doreen Mattis. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the City of Maumelle.
Oh, it's nice to meet you. Introduce yourself. Say that.
Hey, my name is Yonar.
Bernard, nice to meet you.
I'm Torna Box. I'm the office administrator for Maumelle Center on the Lake and the direct supervisor for our 3 young men.
That's awesome.
Hi, my name is Zach Robinson. I am with Project Search. I'm a skills trainer with Project Search.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Henley Greenwald.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so we're gonna get started here, and I really appreciate it. And I would like to say that if I do not remember your name, I do apologize. Before we get started though, so we're gonna go ahead and start with Tawana. So tell me, what was the initial process like? The application, the interview, the onboarding? Did you have anything to really do with that?
I was involved in the interview, but not the application process. That would be Doreen and Nicole and
Okay.
Zach.
Awesome. So, okay, well then, Doreen, why don't you start and tell us what the application process is?
Sure, absolutely. So as part of the training for jobs, for Project Search, the job coaches assist the interns, because that's how they start off as their internship with Project Search. They're taught the skills that they're needed to do an online application. So each of our Project Search graduates filled out an employment application online, just like anyone else would. The job coaches assisted them with their applications and their resumes. They did a great job.
Awesome.
Nicole.
Nicole.
That's okay. That's okay. It was very similar, if not exactly like any interview that we have at Center on the Lake. It was very easy. The gentleman came in at their appointment time. We met with them. It was exactly like any other interview that we've given.
Awesome. Okay, so Zach, you were the coach. Tell me how this actually went. Did you walk each one of these gentlemen through the process of the interview and the beginning of this?
Yes, ma'am. During our program, we help assist creating the resume throughout the process. We go along help them filling out the job application. We transport them to and from the interview. And we're just kind of there in the interview, observing, just making sure, answering any questions that may arise that the graduate may not have a little difficulty answering. So we're just there to provide support through that interview.
That's awesome. So I'm assuming, Zach, that you were there also for the onboarding and the orientation portion of this?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So was there any difference, Nicole or Dorian, as far as the orientation or anything?
No, nothing at all. We treat everyone the same. These guys came with hard skills that we needed. They came with the soft skills that we want as employers, and nothing was different as far as the employment process goes, other than the job coach was included in the interview.
That's awesome. So then how did, Dutch, I'm going to ask you, how was the training for you?
It was good, and it
was good.
It took me a little bit to actually know where everything and once I actually got comfortable with the job, I started out on my own and I knew exactly what to do.
Awesome. That is great. I'm glad to hear that you started out with your support and then were able to become independent from that. That's awesome. So I'm going to ask you then, Henley, how was the training for you in the transition?
They've got specific questions to answer.
I thought that was the one.
Okay.
They didn't give me this questions. Okay. We'll just skip it. Hang on. This is how this is going to go. So tell me how you felt about everything.
I felt that was good for me.
It's okay, you just talk from what you know.
Just tell me what you know.
I figured this thing from my parents that they would have me a job now, like to do a job an outdoor job, and so I learned from Tawana where all the equipment is.
Well, that's great then. So we're going to go ahead and move on to Zach with as far as the work coach. Tell us a little bit about the program that you're working with, and also how did the training and the transition into the company, how did that?
Yes, ma'am. So Project Search, Arkansas Access Initiative in partnership with Arkansas Rehabilitation Services is a 9-month internship program for young adults with developmental disabilities. Interns in the program complete 3 rotations at a partnering business with the goal of gaining necessary skills to obtain competitive employment. And so throughout the 9 months, they do 3 different internships. We've got 7 locations, internship sites throughout the state. And we've got 2 here in Little Rock, UAMS, and at Arkansas Children's Hospital, where throughout the 9 months, we're gaining soft skills, social skills, and obviously the job skills to gain that confidence so we can obtain jobs out in the community.
Oh, that's great. So Tawana, why don't you tell me how it was for you to work with Project Search? Was this your first time working with Project Search?
Yes, ma'am, it was, and it was fantastic. The team coaches were there every single day for the first month after the young men were employed with us. I mean, they would meet the guys there. If the guys got there first, their coaches were on the way and shortly behind them. And like I said, they were there every day for the first month, and then they backed off because the guys were getting very comfortable with their job and their positions and their knowledge of what they were doing. If I have to say something, it is these guys give it their all to do the best job anyone could ever do. And they're always happy to come to work and look forward to every day.
That's great. So Doreen, tell me, how was this? Was this your first time working with that, with the Access projects?
No, actually, I've been on their business advisory council since 2016. And I placed several graduates when I worked for the city of Little Rock, some of which are still employed with the city of Little Rock. Then I started working for the city of Maumelle in December of last year, and we saw the need. I reached out to Nicole. She had a need for a custodian. And after some unsuccessful full-time experiments, should we call them, hiring some folks, we just got together and we worked out a situation where the mayor was nice enough to let us take one full-time position and divide it into 2 part-time positions. And so that way, that let us hire Nard and Dutch as our custodians. So we were very, very grateful that, I am so grateful to Nicole for being open-minded about it, because it is very confusing. I think even the first few times that I attended my business advisory council meetings, I didn't even grasp it as an employer. It took me a few minutes. But the project is a very successful program. It's been around for many years.
We're going on our 10th year this
10
year.
years. Yeah, absolutely. And, I got to see these guys go through their internships and watch them grow and flourish. There was a time when Unard wouldn't even make eye contact with me. And Henley would barely say hello. And Dutch, you didn't say hi to me the first few times, did you either? No, but no, not at all. But we got to know each other, and I got to know their skills. I knew that they would be a great fit for the senior center. I knew they would be a great fit for the jobs that we had to offer. Henley had done some internships outside gardening, so we knew he would make a great part-time groundskeeper, and he's done an amazing job. The guys have done, like Zach said, they do 3 different rotations, 3 10-week internships, and that's where they learn their hard skills. So they were in the environmental services program. Where were you, Were you at Children's or at UAMS? Do you remember?
UAMS.
Dutch, where'd you do your?
I was at UAMS.
Okay, so they learned their hard skills through their internship that they had. UAMS is a business partner. They hosted the interns. And so I just snagged them up just as soon as I could.
So Nicole, tell me, how did the city of Maumelle feel about this?
I'll be honest. I think other directors of other departments were hesitant. I'll just be honest. I've been with the city for 20 years, near 20 years, and you sometimes get in this highway of thought that you hire and not look at other directions. We chose to look at the abilities instead of looking at a negative side. We look at the abilities that these gentlemen have, and they have wonderful skills and abilities. And I just really appreciate Doreen for bringing this to our attention and letting us know that the program even existed. It really has been a godsend for us. I will say is for our team, I think it's very important if you're an employer that your team buy into it. We're able, thankfully, to have more than one at a time, so they have companionship amongst themselves. But our team, everyone on our team, talks to these 3 gentlemen. They support the gentlemen. It's a team effort, and I think it needs to be to make it work. But it's a very positive environment, and I think it's just worked really well.
That's awesome. So basically what you're saying is learning to do that hard sell on how this can be a successful program. So I'm assuming that you had to go to the mayor and you had to go to different ones within the city council or directors. And
How did that work out? Were they open to this, or did, as you said, that they were very reserved?
I think there was a, we don't change well.
Yes. Change can be a
Let me
four-letter
just say
word.
that.
Yeah, change can be a four-letter word, and sometimes we don't like to change.
Yeah, we don't change well sometimes. And so, like I said, Nicole and I just teamed up and we had 100% support for the mayor. And, we just said, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but we have to give it a go.
Absolutely. And I think seeing the success of the program, it's a difficult environment to hire individuals and yet hire very good individuals. And these three gentlemen are excellent candidates. I really feel that way. And I think seeing the success that we've had, I hear that there are other departments that may be coming on board to also participate.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm going to open this just for a few minutes, and I'm going to let the gentleman tell me what they want me to know about how this changed for them. So I'm going to start with you, Unit, and I just want you to tell me, what do you have written down that you wanted to tell us, that you wanted to make us aware of?
What's your favorite part about your job?
Appearances, I clean, that's mom. I won a Ford machine, that mom. The floors. I'm also wash windows. And I clean tables and chairs. I also take out the trash.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. Emily, why don't you tell me, what's your favorite part of the job? What do you want me to know about your success with this?
I am a groundskeeper at Maumelle Center on the lake. I pull weeds out of flower beds, run the power washer as needed, blow off sidewalks and patios with the leaf blower, repair sprinkler lines and drip systems as needed, red flower beds, ant hills, and trim hedges.
So what's your favorite thing to do out of all of that?
My favorite would have to be pulling the weeds out of flower beds.
That's awesome. That's the one thing most people don't like. So I like that attitude. That's great. Okay, so Dutch, we're gonna move to you. What's your favorite part of the job, and what did you learn from this project?
I basically learned how to. I basically learned where everything is. The thing is in the senior center. I learned how to clean all of the machines and floors are real well. And I learned how to keep inventory of everything. So when we're out of something, I know right away to let you want to know.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Dutch. So I have one question for you, Nicole, and my question is, so this is a senior center. How did the people who are within that grouping, how did they react to having these gentlemen come to work there?
Very positively. It's been an extremely positive environment. I do need to say, not only does your team need to be on board, but you've got to have a supervisor, a direct supervisor that will work hand in hand with the trainers and with the gentlemen that are here, and Juana's done a fantastic job with that. But our members have been gracious and understanding as we've had new staff members come in, and it's just been a really great environment. It's been wonderful.
So we're gonna move to our last question. Basically, we've kind of worked all the way around. And Zach, I want to start with you. Working with this employer and these employees, what did you learn new that you can take forward into the next access program?
Communication. Tawana, Nicole, Doreen, it's a great team. We communicate real well, whether we need to work on certain things with these guys or whether they're doing a great job. So communication is by far the thing that we can take in to the next group of graduates, and just work as a team. I'm there to support these guys as well as the staff. So just trying to make that transition smoother, and so these guys gain the independence that they want.
Awesome. So Tawana, same question. What did you learn? And what can you take forward as you move through this?
What I've learned is never look at a disability of a person, look at the ability that they have and what they want to offer you as far as doing their job without complaints.
That's wonderful. And that's exactly how it should be. We should look at abilities, not at disabilities. So, okay. So Doreen, tell me, what did you learn from all of this, and what do you want to take forward, whether it's hiring someone with a disability or whether it's just individually hiring anyone?
My goal is to really, we've got to search our jobs. We've got to work with our job coaches, because not every job is the right job for the right person. We were just so fortunate that we had a custodial position, and one of the internships was in environmental services, which is custodial jobs at the hospital. I've actually got a job coach coming out tomorrow to look at a particular job. So my goal is to have employers work with job coaches to find good fits. We look at the job description, we look at the abilities of the individual, and just go from there. The program's great. What I like, I think most, and I think probably Tawana and Nicole will agree, is that when the job coaches come in, they learn the job. So Tawana taught Zach the job, then Zach taught the job to the graduates. And if there are ever any problems, then Tawana can go to Zach and say, okay, we need to make a change, because Zach knows the abilities and the challenges that each of the graduates face. So we don't know anything about these folks other than they've been through this program. So we don't treat them any differently. When it comes to discipline, we let Zach handle that part. If we need to change the way the job is done, because a lot of folks need to have structure, we go to Zach, because Zach knows the best way to teach our graduates. And if it were up to me, I would have a whole city full of Project Search graduates working for us. So that was probably not the answer that you were looking for.
No, it's actually great. You actually brought up something that I want to ask you. So you said that basically your job descriptions are not set in stone. You can work to the ability of the person. And the other thing that you brought up that's very important is, and I want you to expound upon these, is how much did it cost you as far as to do an accommodation for any of these three gentlemen?
Nothing. It doesn't cost us a dime. Not at all.
So was it easy to work with Zach and with these gentlemen to be able to modify and to accommodate and understand that your job descriptions are not set in stone?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're, like we said earlier, we don't change very well. And so sometimes, people do get in, a very narrow mindset of how something can be done. And it's sometimes amazing how when you ask one of the graduates, tell them, what you want them to do, they say, oh, well, we could do it better this way. And I think other than communicating, just being open-minded is really, really important.
So Nicole, last question for you. So tell me, same thing. What did you learn from all of this and what can you take forward?
The ladies really expounded on it, but I learned to look at an ability and to give everyone a chance. We're all the same. And just to be very open-minded on what we could do and maybe how we could change. And we don't always have to do things one way, that we can be, the task still gets done. It may get done in a different way, but the task still gets accomplished. And in the end, that's
Our end goal.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're gonna find out if we have any questions in chat, and if we do, we're gonna go ahead and start answering those.
Have any questions yet? We've noted that applications for the 2021 through 2022 Project Search internships are open now and can be found at projectsearcharkansas.org.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions. Just before we go, is there anything anyone would like to talk to me, just to tell me about this, just really quickly? Anyone, any of you gentlemen?
Would you recommend Project Search Dutch?
Yes.
You would. That's awesome.
Yard,
Yard?
Yes.
Awesome.
Henley?
Yeah.
That's great. I think that's a wonderful thing. We've had a wonderful conversation. And I appreciate all of your time, energy, and I'm so excited to see what you're going to be doing in the future. Each one of you have so much that you can give forward. And I would like to thank the city of Maumelle. And just to say that it's an amazing thing that they were willing to open and embrace this, because so many people misunderstand what it really takes to hire someone. Again, I think it's wonderful. Kudos to you. And let's hope that this spreads further. Thank you for your time. And we're going to move on to our final group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a little bit.
I'll be right over.
Okay.
Well, our next group is coming in right now. One thing I've found over working to embrace competitive integrated hiring is sometimes it takes just one person to figure it out and transfer best practices. So we saw the transplant of access from the city of Little Rock to the city of Maumelle. And that's really what it takes, is going from agency to agency, person to person, helping understand the business case and making it happen. So our last group, I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves in just a moment, but this is Sheree and Vanessa, and they're going to talk for a little bit about their relationship. Now, before we get started, we had a practice run. It went long because I was laughing so hard between the two of these. So they've been working together for 20 years. Honest answers are not going to be a problem. So I'm going to let you two get started. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies, let's introduce ourselves.
My name is Sheree Smith. I am with Partners for Inclusive Communities through the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville, where I am a disability program specialist.
My name is Vanessa Krause. I'm also with the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville, Partners for Inclusive Communities, and I'm the director of the Disability and Health Program that has been funded by the CDC.
Awesome. Well, as you've seen us go through this, we're going to ask a couple of questions. And I just really want to know, so Sheree, How was the application process and the interview and orientation for you?
The application process was, like getting anything through the university. It was long and kind of tedious, but it was not difficult. The interview was easy, and I think that's because I had known Vanessa prior to the interview, so it was super easy to go in there, and it's not hard for me to be myself, and so that part was also easy. So the onboarding process was not difficult. It was just tedious because it was a lot of moving parts.
I understand that. So Vanessa, how was that for you? The application, the interview, the orientation, onboarding?
A lot of that, well, for me, it was, okay, the same as any university onboarding and hiring process. It's not easy. It's not fun. But it wasn't difficult. I mean, the university sets it up. They help us put out the job announcements, and I also sent it to several organizations that we work with and people with disabilities specifically that I thought would be good for the position. And Sheree had been working with our program for, like I said, over 10 years at that point, helping us with access surveys and different things, projects that we were working on for women with disabilities. I knew I wanted to hire somebody with a disability. We were the Disability and Health Program. We need somebody with a disability in there. Because we sure don't have somebody to tell me. So I take that back. It really wasn't that difficult. The onboarding was the same thing as every university employee goes through, an orientation. And then, our department is specifically for people with disabilities. It's Arkansas University Center of Excellence on Disability. So it was kind of just a natural fit for us. We knew that we wanted that representation on staff.
So you said you knew that you wanted to hire someone with a disability. Did you know that you wanted to hire Sheree for that position?
I knew that Sheree would be really good at that position. She had essentially already been doing the job as a volunteer. Well, not a volunteer, we were collaborating with Delta Resource Center, where she worked at the Independent Living Center in Pine Bluff, and she was a disability advocate there. And so when we started surveying medical facilities for accessibility, she jumped on board and was helping us travel all over the state to do those surveys. And I knew she was an awesome advocate. Sheree says, no problem telling you what's on her mind. In fact, sometimes I wish there was a mute button. There ain't. There's not. I look for it. But I wanted that. I want somebody that's going to be honest to say, hey, that may be great for you, but this is how it would work for me. And she was a big help with all of that.
So when you first heard about the job, Sheree, did you know that this was the job for you? Were you specifically looking for this job?
I did know that this was the job for me because accessibility and disability services and people with disabilities having a voice and being included in their community was so important to me. So when this opportunity came up, I may have called or even emailed Vanessa relentlessly. And I was like, hey, we were even Facebook friends before then. I was like, hey, I can do this, let's get, she's like, it's coming. And I was like, well, it's not coming fast enough. It's like, hurry up and wait. And I'm like, I don't like doing that. And so it was crazy. I interviewed for another job with another disability organization. And I called Vanessa after the interview and I said, I told her what I did. And she was like, oh, Sheree. I said, like, it just came out. And so I applied for her job as well. And I guess it was divine intervention or something because I didn't get the other job and I got their job. So I took that as to say I was supposed to be there. So.
That's awesome.
I was selfish and thought, was crossing my fingers that she wasn't gonna get another job, because I knew I wanted her in my program.
I think she would have hexed on it.
No, I didn't.
So, how was the training and the transition into the company and the company culture for Sheree's?
For the training, you know, we, like every other company, there's software to learn, systems to learn, and things like that. And when you're like me, not very technical and kind of just marches to her own drum, you know, being told what to do is not like my favorite. So, you know, but the training was made easier by the fact that they answered all my questions, did not mind explaining it, putting it in plain language, and re-explaining it again when I, you know, and messing up was not a big deal. And as far as the culture there, I had previous knowledge of a lot of the people there. So I felt comfortable. I felt like I belonged. It wasn't like, oh, Sheree is that person with a disability who's now in our office. Let's do this whole thing. It was just, she's just like anybody else. I'm not the only person on staff there with a disability. We have plenty of people on our staff that have children with disabilities or have disabilities themselves. So in terms of culture and belonging, it was an easy fit.
That's awesome. You know, that's one of the big things about hiring someone with a disability, or even just your culture in general in your business life, is having that sense of belonging. It allows someone to want to stay at your job. Yeah. And that's the important part. So
yeah, we at our job embrace disability. We're not differently abled or anything like that. We are people with disabilities who want to be included in life, and I embrace my disability fully. So
that's awesome, man. So tell me, Vanessa, how was it for you transitioning and training whenever Sheree came along?
Well, the individual that Sheree replaced also used a wheelchair and had a disability. So there were no differences in how we trained her, other than trying to figure out where she fit in best. So we just kind of listed all of the jobs that our program was responsible for tackling, and kind of fit. We have team retreats every year where we fit those jobs with the staff. And I know that Sheree is not going to give us directions.
Nope.
And I know that
you'll never get where you want to be.
No, and she is not the digital picture editor. So if you want those kind of skills, this is not her.
No, don't like any part of that.
And if you want a happy employee, you're not going to give them those tasks. Somebody else on the team can pick those up. And we've always, I feel like we are more family than coworkers. We have team retreats almost every year where we go survey the accessibility of a place and spend a couple of nights together, and it's finding accessible locations and all is really, I think that has brought us together. All of the barriers that we have encountered in the community together has brought us closer together as a team.
Yeah, they take me out to trails every year, and I don't do outdoors. And they make me go every year. That's the part of my job I don't like, but being outside.
So I know at one point when you and I talked earlier, you had said that part of the job that Sheree is supposed to do is set up displays. So what did you do about that?
So yeah, when we started downsizing in staff and we do exhibits at conferences, and back before COVID, those used to be in person. And so Sheree had plenty of time to work the tables, and I might not have time to work the tables, so I would go set the table up the day before and tear it down the day after, because she uses public transportation, and that's not something that they're going to allow on public transportation. And frankly, trying to set all that stuff up is more than a one-person job. So I set it up, and she works the table, and I come back and tear it down, and that's kind of how we divvy up those jobs. It's just whoever can do or be there to fill in where we need them.
That's awesome. So Sheree, tell me,
How was that for you? How was knowing that you had that backup there? How was that?
That's awesome because you want to feel supported in your job. I don't care who you are. You want to feel like your employer is going to play to your strengths and not set you up to fail. They set you up to succeed. And I felt like that's what has happened here. You know, they do jobs that they know that even if they're challenging, that I can be successful in, and they give me all of those tools to do that, and the things that they know to keep away from me, that's what they do. And I have no bones about telling them I don't want no part of that. So it works. And we're able to communicate really well. And I think that's.
So how much did that cost you to do? To make any accommodations for Sheree's?
I've not, well, for any employee that I've ever had with a disability, I've never paid anything. We've had, I think Sheree, she uses a voice to text translator program on her computer, which most of our staff do anyway. And then I had to raise a desk for a staff, which was putting blocks under the legs of the desk. And we drilled holes in the blocks so that the legs fit into the blocks and they wouldn't fall over. But honestly, I've never had to make any accommodations for anyone.
And, you know, I think part of that is because, and it was so easy and so cheap, is because, you know, I said I had a problem with this, like, well, let's research it and find the best solution, not just throw money at something that is not going to be useful. So that raising that desk was a cheap fix, and because the staff was able to tell us, you know, tell her what we needed. So
That's great. Communication is the key. And again, accommodations generally cost you little to nothing as an employer. And that's a really important part that we miss. So how does an employer feel about hiring someone with a disability and then being told that they need to make an accommodation?
You know, every academic job I've had, people have come in and asked me what I needed to be able to do my job. And so that's where I started with Sheree. What do you need to be able to do your job? And I don't really consider that an accommodation. It's just, this is what she needs to be able to do her job. Maybe it is an accommodation.
It is. It actually is. So Sheree, asking for those things, what's your biggest fear sometimes of asking? As an employee, not necessarily hers, how do you think other employees feel about that?
well, I think part of it is that people feel like, people with disabilities often feel like, oh, if I'm gonna ask for too much, are they gonna say I can't do the job? Or are they gonna turn me down for the job or find a way to get me out of the job because I asked for this accommodation that they feel is too much? And if a person is shy or is not able to stand up, they'll cower under that and say, well, if this person says I can't do the job, so I guess I'm gonna leave, and they walk away from it. Then the employer doesn't get this awesome employee that could be with great potential, and the employee doesn't get this job that they want to be independent. So I think that's the biggest thing, is employees with disabilities are afraid that they're gonna get turned down, or they're gonna go through all these hoops to justify this accommodation that they should have to be successful in their position.
So we're gonna move to our final question now. What did you learn as the employer and the employee that through this whole process that you can take forward and you want other businesses to know about?
Well, one of the things pretty early on was that in the hiring process, they asked for Sheree's driver's license. And like I said, you don't want her giving you directions. Okay. I used to tell her that she needs to learn to drive, but I think I've convinced myself that she probably doesn't. She's just better off using public transportation. She's got that down.
Yeah.
And so when they came and asked for her driver's license, I was like, well, she doesn't drive. She has a state ID. And I gave them that. And then they came back with, is she supposed to participate in any outside meetings outside of the office? And I was, well, yes, she is. And then it was like they didn't make the leap to public transportation. And so I kind of had to take that off of your job description, that she was going to leave the office for public meetings. And I kind of slid it back under as other duties as it's on. But COVID has made that so much easier now with all of those being Zoom meetings. But she used public transportation to participate in national, state, and local coalitions and meetings, and provides a very valuable perspective, I think.
All right, Sheree. So tell me the same question. What did you learn from this, and what can you take forward, and what do you want other employers to know?
I think what I took from it most, that while certain jobs are definitely honorable, like working at a Walmart or working, at a fast food restaurant, that was not what I wanted to do. I'm not set up for manual labor, definitely. And I had a college degree. So if I wanted this position, I didn't see a reason why I couldn't get it if I had the skill set. So I think employers just need to be more open to know that they can hire a person with a disability. A person with a disability doesn't have to be stuck being a greeter at Walmart or doing something like that. Those are fine jobs if that's what they want to do. But if they have a desire to do something else, like work in an office like I do, or work something like that, or work in a business setting that's like that, then they should be supported and get what they need. And I have been with Partners Forever, and I have not had an instance where I didn't feel like what I was asking for or was too much, or what I was giving wasn't appreciated.
So what's your plans in the future then?
I'm actually, she's still mad. She's still mad. Friday is my last day with Partners for Inclusive Communities, because I got a new position as a membership and marketing manager at a national organization called AUCD, which is Association on University Centers on Disabilities. So I got that position, and it was through the work I was doing through Partners where I got the skills I needed for this position, which is I'll be working nationally now. So.
That's awesome. So, ladies, I appreciate it. Let's see if we have any questions in the chat. If we do not, we will let John finish out for us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a lot of congratulations, Sheree.
Thank you.
Awesome opportunity.
She keeps saying that, but then
She doesn't mean it.
All right, we don't have any questions currently. Again, you can always contact John Taylor and find out, get some answers for these programs. I will let John finish this out for the conclusion for the day. I'd like to thank all of you for participating. I'd love to thank all of our panelists. It's been a joy, and it's been a pleasure to work with each of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Okay. Well, this afternoon, I certainly learned a lot. Anytime I hear groups of employees just share their experiences, share their insights, I always learn something new. And that is the whole point of this afternoon, is that understanding is really what drives inclusion. The more you know about each other, the better it is. I heard lots of good things today, but before I get into the end of it, I'd like to do a ton of thank yous. Number one, of course, thank you to Sheree and Vanessa. You guys were fantastic. I would like to thank the city of Maumelle and that entire team. Basically, the majority of the Maumelle city government was here today, and we are grateful for that and grateful that you are an inclusive employer. And I'd like to thank Cindy and JC and Marshalls of Little Rock as well. One of the things I tend to hear the most when I'm out and about and we're talking to all sorts of different audiences about inclusive hiring is that there's a lot of preaching to the choir. And that's true. Many of you out there that are watching are already in the trenches, in the fight, trying to move barriers to make inclusive hiring happening. But you're preaching to the choir. My challenge to many of you out there would be this. One voice by itself, you can move one obstacle. Multiple voices together with one message can move any obstacle out of the way. So those of you that are watching, if you have not yet tried to practice inclusive hiring, try it. Let one person in and see what happens. Join our choir. We'd also love to see you do some more formal feedback for us as well. If you go to the Governor's Council's website, there's an employer survey that has some really detailed questions around inclusive hiring. So fill out the survey, join our choir, and help us make inclusive hiring a reality for everybody. Thanks so much for your time. Have a great afternoon.